It was a rainy morning when a small, shivering puppy appeared at the doorstep of a veterinary clinic. But he wasn't alone. Between his tiny teeth, he dragged a heavy bag. Curious, the vet opened the door, not knowing that what lay inside the bag would change everything forever. Rain poured steadily, drumming against the tin roof of the small veterinary clinic. Inside, the waiting room was empty, the chairs lined neatly as if no one had sat in them all day. Dr. Harris, the town's only vet, sighed as he stacked the last of his paperwork. It had been a quiet morning, the kind that made him consider. Closing early, the ticking clock echoed in the stillness. He reached for his coat, glancing once more at the gloomy sky outside. That's when he heard it. A faint scratching at the door, followed by a weak whimper. At first he thought it was just the wind, but then came another sound, sharper this time. Curious, Dr. Harris walked to the entrance, unaware that what waited for him on the other side would change his life forever. Dr. Harris pulled open the clinic door, and there, huddled against the rain, was a tiny golden puppy. His fur was soaked, clinging to his shivering body, and his wide eyes stared up with a mixture of fear and determination. But what caught the vet's attention wasn't just the puppy. It was the bag clutched tightly between his teeth. Heavy and dripping wet, the bundle dragged across the ground as the little dog struggled to keep it close. The puppy whined softly, then sat upright on his hind legs, paws folded together as if begging. His gaze never wavered, silently pleading for help. Dr. Harris knelt, heart twisting at the sight. He had seen countless animals in distress, but never one so small, so desperate, and yet so brave. Something told him this was no ordinary visit. The puppy hadn't come for himself. He was asking for something more. Dr. Harris slowly reached for the soggy bag, its coarse fabric dripping rainwater onto the porch. The little puppy barked once, sharp, urgent, then pawed at the bundle as if urging him to open it quickly. The vet lifted it gently, surprised by its weight. Whatever was inside wasn't just scraps or trash. The knot at the top was tight, twisted, deliberately to keep something sealed away. His fingers worked at the wet fibers, heart pounding faster with every pull. All the while, the puppy paced in circles, whining anxiously, his tail tucked low. He wasn't leaving, not even for a second. Doctor. Harris paused, glancing down at those pleading eyes. This wasn't an accident. The pup had brought this here for a reason. With a deep breath, he carried the bag inside, bracing himself for whatever truth lay hidden within. Inside the clinic, Dr. Harris placed the dripping bag on the exam table. The puppy scrambled up beside him, shivering but insistent, nudging the bag with his nose. With trembling hands, the vet untied the final knot and slowly peeled back the fabric. His breath caught in his throat. Inside, curled together for warmth, were two newborn puppies. Their tiny bodies were frail, their fur damp and cold to the touch. One whimpered faintly, the other barely stirred. They were alive, but only just. Doctor. Harris stared in disbelief. This little dog had carried his siblings through the rain, dragging them across the streets to the only place he knew could save them. The puppy barked softly, then licked one of the newborns as if to say, "Please, help them." The vet's chest tightened. He had seen loyalty before, but never something so pure, so heartbreaking. He knew he had to act fast. Dr. Harris snapped into action. He grabbed clean towels, gently wrapping the newborns to trap what little warmth they had left. He switched, on the heating lamp, its glow spreading across the table, and placed the tiny bodies beneath it. The older puppy whined anxiously, pacing back and forth on the counter. His little paws tapped nervously, eyes never leaving his siblings. Every time one whimpered, he pressed closer, nudging them as if checking to see if they were still breathing. The vet worked quickly, warming milk, preparing a dropper, rubbing their frail bodies to stimulate circulation. Minutes passed like hours until finally one of the newborns let out a stronger cry. Then the other shifted, its tiny chest rising with deeper breaths. Dr. Harris exhaled in relief. The little hero wagged his tail for the first time that day, his eyes glowing with hope. When the newborn's cries grew steadier, Dr. Harris finally allowed himself a moment to breathe. He glanced at the little puppy who now sat beside the table, watching with wide, exhausted eyes. His tiny body trembled, but his spirit burned brighter than ever. Dr. Harris knelt, reaching out to stroke his damp fur. "You did it, little one," he whispered. "You saved them." The puppy leaned into his touch, tail wagging weakly, then turned back to his siblings, refusing to leave their side. He curled up close to them on the table, his small body acting like a shield. The vet's throat tightened. For months he had grown disillusioned with people abandoning animals at his clinic. But this sight, this selfless act of love, reminded him why he had chosen this path. That night he made a decision. None of the three would ever be alone again. By the next morning, word of the hero puppy had already spread through town. A neighbor who had passed by the clinic during the storm told the story, and soon people began arriving, curious, emotional, and carrying small gifts. Families brought blankets, toys, and bags of food. Children pressed their faces against the clinic window, eager to catch a glimpse of the brave pup who had saved his siblings. Dr. Harris was overwhelmed. His once quiet clinic, often filled with loneliness, now buzzed with kindness and support. The puppy wagged his tail shyly as visitors praised him, but his eyes always returned to the newborns resting safely nearby. He hadn't asked for fame. He had only asked for love. Weeks later, the newborns had grown stronger, their tiny paws stumbling across the clinic floor. The older puppy watched proudly, no longer shivering in the rain, but basking in warmth and safety. Dr. Harris often paused to reflect. He had seen cruelty, neglect, and abandonment, but this small act of loyalty reminded him that love can shine even in the darkest moments. The puppy hadn't just saved his siblings. He had restored hope in everyone who heard his story. If this touched your heart, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.